Police officers, what are the most ridiculous cover stories you've heard from people you were questioning? It was a quiet evening, and the police were cruising through a neighborhood that had seen better days. There had been a string of burglaries in the area lately, so any unusual activity caught their attention. A few kids were spotted shooting off bottle rockets near a vacant lot, which wasn't exactly a crime, but given the recent reports, it was enough to warrant a check. The officers pulled up slowly, lights off, and approached the group of 3 boys who looked no older than 14. The area was tricky. On one side, a pond. On another, a high fence topped with barbed wire. And on the last side, a steep embankment leading up to railroad tracks. The boys found themselves with nowhere really to go, but when the cops got close, 2 of them bolted toward the embankment, trying to disappear into the thick grass and trees. The 3rd kid made a break for the fence. The officers split up to follow. The 2 who ran to the embankment were fairly well hidden, blending into the tall grass, crouching low among the brush. The 3rd boy, who had headed for the fence, was visibly panicked. He reached the barbed wire and immediately hit a wall, literally and figuratively. He couldn't climb it. So instead of trying to find a way around or surrender, he did something no one expected. He laid flat on his belly in the ankle-high grass, completely still. Not just still, he was trying to disappear. The officers circled slowly, careful to keep their distance so they didn't spook the kids even more. When they finally got close enough, one officer called out to the boy, telling him to stand up. The kid didn't move. The officers repeated the order. Still nothing. The boy stayed flat on his stomach, head down. Then, as if the moment wasn't already ridiculous enough, the kid rolled over onto his back, stretched his arms out like he was waking up from a deep sleep, and let out the most exaggerated yawn the officers had ever seen. Then, in a perfectly innocent voice, he said, "Sorry, what? I was just sleeping." The sheer absurdity of the situation caught everyone off guard. The officers, who had been expecting resistance or at least a standoff, burst out laughing. The kid, still lying there like a cat that had been disturbed from its nap, looked confused by their reaction. One of the officers finally managed to get through the laughter and told the boy he wasn't in trouble. They reminded him that running from the police wasn't a good idea, but mostly they just shook their heads at the creativity of his cover story. The 2 boys hiding in the trees were soon found and brought back without incident. That night, the officers couldn't stop retelling the story. The image of a 14-year-old kid pretending to be asleep in a patch of grass, right after sprinting full tilt to avoid capture, was just too much. It was the kind of ridiculous moment that reminded them that sometimes, the kids they dealt with were just trying their best to think on their feet, even if their ideas were completely bonkers. No one got hurt, no one went to jail that night, the bottle rockets were confiscated and the boys were sent home with warnings. But the memory of that kid, sprawled out like he'd been dreaming peacefully moments before, was going to stick with those officers for a long time. It was one of those rare moments where the absurdity of the situation made the whole night a little lighter,